All right, so
But
shall we go with
what
the
Nick
first
is
film
invited
movie?
to is a film that I will let
Yeah.
someone else introduce. Who wants to take it?
You want me to do it?
Nick, introduce the film.
Yeah, do it.
Okay, guys. So this film we watched is called the Juice of a Cranberry. It stars, what was that other movie called? I didn't watch that one.
The color of pomegranates. But
Oh, the
close enough.
Juice of a
Hey, you're really
Cranberry is a
close.
good second place.
You're
Though.
really close.
I'm gonna write that down. That'll be
Okay,
a short film title.
am I given synopsis or am I given full plot? Am I given a log line?
give the
What do you want
synopsis.
from me
Spoiler
here?
free.
Synopsis,
We're-
director.
Okay, so I just explain what the movie is and then
Yeah.
okay. This week's movie that they made me watch is called The Five Bloods. It's the newest big Netflix film with a auteur filmmaker, Spike Lee. This is a film about 4 Vietnam vets that go back to Vietnam sometime later. I'm assuming it's just present day, so however long it's been. To find the body of their deceased squad mate, as well as find the gold that they hid. I was about to reveal plot details there. I probably shouldn't. But I guess, what do I think about it? Do I just go into that, or?
Yeah, we'll start with our general thoughts and opinions on the film.
Okay, so here I'll do this thing. I'll do the transition. So Chandler, what did you think of The Five Bloods?
I feel like this movie, along with pretty much every other Spike Lee movie I've seen, except for Do the Right Thing, I can say the same thing about it. I liked it, but it's a mess.
That's
Yeah,
a great.
overall, I
That's a
liked
great way.
it.
That's a great way to summarize it.
I think we're all going to have a very similar kind of base opinion on this film because I would 100% agree. And I'm coming at it from specifically like a thematic level. I think the film it was interesting. I had my attention, but at the end, I felt that Spike Lee was going for too much, and that I never got like a consistent kind of thematic through point throughout the entire film.
Yeah, the thing about Spike Lee's movies, again, the ones I've seen, they are movies that never have bad scenes, but they are just edited so weird and structured in such a weird way that it's all good, but
Spike Lee has this weird style where it almost seems like he intentionally tries to break continuity with the editing, where like the edits are just kind of like strangely placed together where you're like very keen on the cuts as you're watching the film. It like pulls you out of the movie almost. And it happens a lot in this movie.
It's not even the moment to moment stuff that bothers me. It's the way that some scenes go on too long and some scenes just end. And there's a lot that can be cut all the time. This movie is like 30 minutes too long.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, the stuff I really like.
There's a lot of stuff in here that I really like.
It's all spread out though too much, and I felt that
there's too much other shit just in the middle.
Push it together a little bit, because I was noticing, particularly in the middle of the film, where certain events that like there starts to be a little tension in the film, but that tension is separate. Like here's tension scene ends. Here's character scene ends, and now we're on to a different thing. Like they're very specifically cut up almost at certain parts in the film, and I felt that these things could have been slightly mushed together where things are overlapping and there's more than one feeling that's going for at one time, instead of just creating so much separation between the scenes.
Spike had so many good ideas. I think there's a lot of cool character things here. It's just too much. It's just too much of a mess. It's almost like just like a splatter painting where you're like, oh, those are a bunch of nice colors, but they're just all over the place in different shapes and sizes, and you can't even really make anything of it. But you're like, nah, you're okay. It looks kind of nice. I'll hang it up in my family.
It's kind of it has character study elements in it, and it follows a bunch of characters and one in particular, but I never got a real grasp on any of them to the point where I felt I was fully satisfied by it. I thought they were really great stuff, but nothing. I felt like there could have been more cohesiveness to all of that, and to the focus on the characters, which the film was about characters, and sometimes it kind of gets distracted by other Vietnam-esque things.
It's very tonally all over the place too. I think there's like a very The beginning has a very clear tone and message, and like, I mean, I'm pretty sure if you've ever seen a Spike Lee movie, you know what I'm talking about. And then in the like once the second act starts, maybe halfway through the second act or whatever, it just like I feel like it just becomes a movie thematically completely about something else. Like it just completely shifts, and it's kind of, I don't know, it's strange, and it leaves you kind of unsatisfied.
It goes from Spike Lee's Apocalypse Now to Spike Lee's Treasure of the Sierra Madre.
It's true. It's true.
The moment where I realized that Spike Lee needs to fucking chill was when they. I don't know if this is a spoiler.
I mean, I think we're pretty much done with our overall thoughts. Let's just finish our overall thoughts real quick.
The film is led by a group of really great performances.
The lead performance is amazing.
There's not a single bad.
I don't even. Can you even call him the lead though? Is amazing.
So that's Delroy Lindo as Paul.
Yeah,
Delroy Lindo, great job, bud.
Probably, I think we're all going to agree, kind of the standout performance there.
No, absolutely.
I think
He's
large
English,
part of that is
way.
that he gets screen time and actual plot is devoted to him more so than a lot of the other characters.
Plot is devoted to him. Yeah.
Well, because I really enjoy. Is his name Otis?
Otis, yes.
Which one?
Otis is.
Gosh, I don't remember any of the names.
The one with the Vietnamese girl and the child.
Oh, yes. I like Otis. Yeah, I do.
Spoiler
like
alert,
guy.
but that happens very quickly in the film. So
I think his performance is just as good. He just doesn't have nearly as much to do.
I wanted to see more of Otis and his.
Otis is great.
Little thing.
That's okay. I just thought
woman.
I just thought of something to talk about for a spoiler. So you just reminded me.
Of it's a good movie. It's on Netflix. If you're into this sort of thing, I don't know if you like Spike Lee, watch it.
Yeah, I would say that. You definitely have to like Spike Lee to like this movie. I feel like if you don't like Spike Lee's style at all, this is gonna drive you crazy.
Well, the thing
it'd be
is
fine.
about
You just
Spike
might not
Lee,
get a lot out of it.
Yeah.
Spike Lee, the reason I love Spike Lee is also the reason I kind of hate Spike Lee at times, is that he is not subtle.
He just makes what he wants, man. He does not care at all.
It's not even that he makes what he wants. He tells you what his movies are about most of the time. And Do the Right Thing is one of my favorite movies of all time. And Do the Right Thing,
I love Do the Right Thing. That's like probably my favorite movie.
But Do the Right Thing is the most unsubtle movie ever made.
Exactly. But it works because it's an angry, unsubtle movie with characters that are angry at each other.
It's taking a strong emotional stance on what it's saying.
Yes. It's very strong, it's very passionate, whereas something like Black Klansman, which I also like, has moments of equal unsubtlety where they find out, there's a scene in Black Klansman where they find out that there's a KKK member in the state legislature or Congress or whatever, and Adam Driver's like, well, just be glad it's here, and we'll never have a president that's this racist. And I'm just like, oh, Spike.
Yeah, that.
But
and you get some of that here too.
In this movie,
you get a lot of that.
You get a lot of that here. And the thing about Spike Lee is that his heart is always in the right place, and he always makes movies that are. This movie has a lot that I think is very relevant specifically to the current protests, but this movie was filmed like a year and a half beforehand. So obviously there's the argument that can be made that shit doesn't change, and Spike Lee knows that. But I think Spike Lee also just understands just how deep a lot of our problems go, and just how easy it is to feel that way. And in those moments, I like him, but sometimes to get to those moments, he brings the movie to a screeching halt.
Yeah, he just stops the movie. Yeah.
That's what I was talking about.
There's like PSA moments. There's PSA moments in this film for sure.
Like when the lead character, lead parentheses.
Yeah. So
no, not really.
Okay.
Here, go ahead.
Finish your thought, and then we can say.
I was just gonna say the lead. They have a very out of nowhere discussion about Donald Trump, and obviously this is something that it sort of pertains to the plot at hand, but the way that they present it, it just seems like, oh, we gotta put in a anti-presidential message here. Let's stop everything else and focus on this for a minute or two. Okay, that's over. Let's get back to the gold. Whereas in his other movies, like the ones I really like are Do the Right Thing, The 25th Hour, and his political commentary is built into the actual narrative.
Yeah, into the plot. Yes.
He has so much to say, but he doesn't know how to say it.
So spoilers from here on out.
Okay, spoilers.
It's interesting that we're talking about Treasure of the Sierra Madre and Apocalypse Now, and I think they're both kind of interweaved throughout the entire narrative. There's not like a split break between influences, and the whole second half of the film really is them going to get the gold, and it was calling upon the ideas of Treasure of the Sierra Madre, which is about greed and its influence. And then you have the
It
character,
also has a very subtle reference to Sierra Madre. You blink and you might miss it.
but there's also Paul, who starts to go a little off the deep end near the end there. And then you also have the temple that they go to for the final shootout that had very reminiscent vibes to the temple at the end of Apocalypse Now, where Kurtz is at. And the point being with all of that is that in those films, you have a very clear main idea. Greed in Treasure of the Sierra Madre, and then kind of the madness of war in Apocalypse Now.
Yeah.
And I like Spike Lee, the plot and the themes and the ideas that he wants to get across, which are interesting, that I wanted to know more about. I wanted to understand more. They're almost running completely separately.
They are.
That the plot has almost little to do with what he's trying to say. And that was frustrating, particularly at the end, where I felt I wanted to get more into maybe what Paul's character was saying, or it has gets very political at the very end, as Spike wants to do.
Yes.
And like I felt nothing necessarily.
It's a movie that's about like greed and grief and regret and war
PTSD
and disenfranchisement
and
PTSD. It's about, but it never. You're right. It never connects these things together.
No.
And, I think a huge part of that is that structurally, this movie has so many moments and characters that don't matter. The biggest one to me is the one character who's easily the worst character in this movie. The only one I don't really care about, who is the one who used to be rich and then who isn't.
Mm-hmm. Eddie, I think.
oh yeah,
I feel like
David.
that reveal does nothing.
they give him a huge
reveal
character
means
moment.
nothing.
They just kill him. Like right when I was starting to care about the
It's
character
out
a
of
little
nowhere.
bit, they just kill
All I
him.
know is that guy. Yeah, all I know is that guy used to be rich and he's pigeon-toed. That's the only thing I know about that character.
Yeah,
Even the other character, the larger man, he has a personality to him, but the character is not that deep. But the movie doesn't care that much about him.
Mm-hmm.
Otis and Paul are the two characters I care the most about, but even they have stuff that I just don't. It doesn't matter. What does Paul's or Otis's daughter have anything to do with the movie?
I was about to say that. I think that he literally put that character into the film so that they could have that part at the end where they like meet each other and hug. Like he just wanted that scene in there at the end for a sentimental moment, and so he just added that character in there.
The only thing that I see that character and her daughter accomplishing in this whole movie is that they gave Otis a gun.
Yeah.
Oh, I
I
forgot
mean, in
about-
terms
yeah,
of
yeah,
plot.
And that
Yes.
gun is this big dramatic moment when Paul finds it, and then Paul just takes the gun and you kind of forget that he ever packed a gun. But the moment that I was just so mad at unnecessarily, because around an hour and a half into this movie, I'm just thinking, okay, we could have done this in 45 minutes to an hour. But when they find the gold,
They're in that
They
scene
find
for
one
20
bar.
minutes.
they find one bar of gold, and then they go down the hill and they find the suitcase. Then they dig out the suitcase and they pull out the suitcase and they realize there's no gold in the suitcase. And then Paul starts to freak out that there's no gold in the suitcase. And then they find more bars, and you spend like the next 2 minutes as they find bar after bar. And I'm just like,
And then they
why?
celebrate for
And it's
more time.
playing
and
sentimental
then-
music,
yeah.
and they
Just-
celebrate every time they find one.
Here's what
It
I'm talking
takes
about.
so long.
When I said earlier that things are separate, is that after that, there's a scene where the rich guy gets blown up. And 30 minutes earlier, there's a scene where they talk about the landmines. And I feel like that's great. Landmines. You have a great source of tension that you could be building into them looking for gold and just running like wild people around this hill.
Yeah, and
And
have like the one scene where the guy's like, maybe we should be careful about landmines, guys. That's it. That's all you got to do.
Simple things that would
Spike,
make it
it's
more
so
engaging
easy.
on that level.
Spike, call me, man. We can fix this. We can make this right.
And then it would make that scene where he just gets blown up by the landmine a little bit more built up to.
And it's kind of
I don't know.
the way it's introduced too is it's Jonathan Majors. I don't remember at all what the character's name is, but I love
David.
Jonathan Majors in this film. By the way, he's very charming. I want to see that guy.
Jonathan Majors is a good man.
Yeah, I love him.
I love Jonathan.
He has that scene where he's flirting with the European girl at the bar, and she's just like, she's like, I do landmines, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, there's someone's gonna blow up from a landmine in this movie because she just randomly out of nowhere has a job in landmines, and it's just like so unsubtle. It's like, okay, I have a career in having your characters die from landmines in the middle of the movie.
The thing about landmines is that the significance of them in Vietnam is that they are a scar on the land that hasn't gone away. That like these little literal mines of residues of this war that didn't need to happen, that was entirely ideological. And one of the things the film has two separate, in the beginning, it's talking about like Vietnam, and there's a lot of really interesting stuff about like getting over the Vietnam War, about how these are vets and they're going to Vietnam, which is modern and new and seems to have gotten over the war. And then there's the scene where the old Viet Cong toast them and all that. And I felt there was a really interesting movie to be had with dealing with the scars of Vietnam, with the fact that the role that African Americans played in that war, and yet the film kind of forgets about the Vietnam War for
that's the last scene that involves anything related to the Vietnam War.
Well, that's the thing, is I'm telling you, that's why it's half Apocalypse Now, half Sierra Madre, because once the gold comes out, it becomes a completely different movie about greed in these characters.
But then again, it's not even about greed. Like, there's nothing being said there. So.
Because it's only him that's going, Paul, that's going crazy about greed, and he isn't just going crazy about greed.
It's more about guilt.
If anything, it's more about guilt and grief. But I don't want to like completely shit on this movie because there are things that frustrate me. There's a lot that I really like.
Mm-hmm.
I really think the scene where Jonathan Major steps on the landmine is very well done.
That is great.
It's very tense.
I don't believe in the science behind the whatever they do.
No, I don't either. But whatever,
all that. But it was.
I would have tried a Raiders of the Lost Ark gold switcheroo with him. But I
found the scene where Paul has a dream with Storm and Norman, and he forgives him. I found
that was a great scene too. I really enjoyed that. The fourth wall monologue from Paul when he's in the forest too is great.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked that.
Yeah, that's the kind of Spike Lee that I like. It's
very
in any other
ways
Spike or any other movie, it would be annoying
style in a film.
But yeah, I do want to say the one thing that I just didn't care for was when they had the first flashback and they land the plane, they're fighting. I just thought it was such lazily shot action.
Did you notice there was music over that entire scene?
Okay, that's another thing that bothers me. The music is annoying. The music is constant. It's overbearing.
In that scene in particular, it was particularly egregious.
Yes, but towards the end, it gets pretty overbearing too. But yeah, I love the scenes where they're on the Vietnam version of the gondola. I thought all that looked great. But yeah, there's just
that's another one of those things. You just reminded me.
Too few.
Finish your thought. I'm sorry. Things keep coming.
No, that's it. I was finishing.
Oh, I was gonna say another. I know we're in the positive section of the film, but another thing that annoyed me that I just remembered and left. As this film, like, I don't know if it was just me or not, but about like 15 minutes in, I was sensing. I kind of was like, oh no. I have a feeling this is going to be really bad. And I was a little concerned. And the biggest hit to me was this stupid shot of them dancing through the club. And the shot itself lasts maybe 45, 50 seconds. And it's the exact same thing the whole time. It's just them dancing in a line through the nightclub. And I'm
At
just
least it was
like,
visually
what?
interesting.
It looked okay.
It was.
It looked
It was-
okay,
it was
but
very
like
well
what?
lit.
I don't understand it. There's just like so many weird little style things that Spike Lee fits in. Like there's a couple more of these weird like tracking long takes. There's one of them outside on the strip too.
I enjoy those.
Yeah.
One Spike Lee signature that I enjoy is the I don't know what the name of it is. It's when the characters are still, but they're moving towards you and the background's changed.
Oh yeah,
I
he
was gonna
did
say,
that
that was in
again at
Black
the
Klansman.
end. Yeah, I did it in Black Klansman.
Yeah, it was in Black
as well.
Klansman as well. I like those. That's becoming a new Spike
Where
Lee
the actors
staple.
are on the dolly with the camera.
Yeah.
Let me say this about that tracking shot of them through like the town. They're walking through Ho Chi Minh City, and I really like that as opposed to another scene in the film where they're on the gondola, the barge down the river, and it's Paul dealing with this is the first time he
A
really
chicken
starts talking
salesman.
about how he sees things from his past, about the scene is about Paul, and
Yeah.
yet they're having a conversation, like they're all trying to calm him down, and the camera keeps cutting back and forth, and Delroy Lindo is giving a really great performance, and then we're cutting all around to these characters. I'm like, you're cutting too much. Stay with who the scene is about, Paul, so stay with him, which is why I really like that tracking shot, because the scene is about the group, therefore the shot is dictated by
Stays with
that,
the
and it's
group.
following
Yeah.
the group.
Yeah.
So he knows what he's doing, and then other times it's just like, stop cutting.
The movie itself seems to me pretty low budget, just in general. I feel like that might have been a budgetary thing.
Had a pretty good budget,
There
though.
is one. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Maybe they blew it on Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah, and I did like the part he played in this film. I almost feel like
I
they
like
should have.
Chadwick Boseman.
I feel
in
like
this movie.
they should have boasted that part of the film up and used it almost like as a thematic like centerpiece to hold
Well,
everything
yeah, he
else.
was-
But they didn't.
but he was
It
more
almost
about-
seems like he wanted to do that too, and they just didn't execute it well.
Yeah, one thing that I think the thing as far as the actual narrative goes that most bothered me was at the end when Jonathan Majors reads the letter from his father,
Mm-hmm.
which is, it's a nice heartfelt letter. But at the same time, you watched him say, "You're not my son, you're dead to me," and you never got that resolution. So even though you have that letter that's really nice, it doesn't cover up the fact that your own father's last words were, "You're dead to me."
But I think that's kind of the point. I think that's kind of the point, though, of the character is that he's like,
There's so many
I don't
instances in the
know.
film where characters just kind of teleport to a different part of their character arc,
yes,
and
I did
it's not
notice
really
one of those.
explained.
Yeah.
I think Paul, for all the great things done with that character, his descent into madness happens a little disjointedly.
just almost
And
instantly too.
Was it Simone or the French woman? She goes from
Her name's Hetty. I thought.
or Hetty or
Hetty, yeah. like
Simone
Hetty
was
Lamar.
something else. But she goes from, like, at one point she says, "Oh, I was only saying those things because I was trying to get free," and you kind of believe her.
Yeah.
And then then they make up, and there's just kind of like,
Yeah, and then a couple scenes later they're like
Jumps
flirting
around.
again, and I'm like, what? And then they're friends at the end, and then they get a cut of the pay. I'm like, why are they just giving these people money? They could just easily say no. I don't
there's
understand.
a lot of character things that needed just like an extra line of dialogue to bridge it from a few scenes ago.
Yeah. And so the three people that are with the bomb defusing thing, you have Hetty, you have Paul Walter Hauser, who's the chubby racist from Black Klansman. Then you have the skinny racist from Black Klansman, who
I
they
forgot
say
those
he's
guys were both in
English.
Black Klansman.
I don't know what the fuck his accent was.
It's supposed to be French.
I don't know.
Is he?
I don't know.
If he's supposed to be French, I could have swore either they
thought.
said in the movie that he was
Oh,
English or the subtitles
not
in
the
the
larger
Netflix.
one.
No, I'm talking about the skinny one.
I
Is
don't
he
know.
supposed to be
Maybe not.
French?
Did they
I
ever?
thought they introduced him as English.
Which one was he? He was.
He's the one who got blown up.
Well,
Was
he's
there-
Finnish.
Was there any
Apparently.
establishment of
So-
why, like, the fact that the people were going to be out in the middle of the field in the middle of nowhere and run into them? Like, why were they out? I understand, like, hey,
thought he
they're
was
probably,
hired
doing
by
some,
Jean
they're probably
Reno.
doing some landmine stuff, but, like, they just ran into the exact spot they were at.
No, that's
just ran
fine.
into them.
I can suspend my disbelief for that.
I don't like
That's
it,
fine.
but
I don't like it either,
there's
but I
other
mean,
issues.
I guess I accept it. It's not the most annoying thing about this movie.
I did like the fact that they got what's his name, Jean Reno, I think is the actor.
Yeah, Jean Reno.
Like that he was in it, but one underused and kind of just in there for 2 scenes. And then I did think it was, I don't know if it was over the top, but it was kind of funny how he's dressed in a white suit and then he puts the MAGA hat on.
The Donald
like,
Trump
oh,
imagery.
This is subtle.
Yes, it was so cringe. I'm like, it's just you're trying. I'm like,
Spike,
Spike
you've
Lee,
put a
you're
Donald
like
Trump
you're
stand-in
trying
in your
too
film.
hard, dude.
You ever heard of metaphor,
do enjoy.
It's black men in a gunfight with Donald Trump at the end of the scene. That's just what it is. He didn't even try to hide it either. He may as well have just.
I'm not
put
even sure what
text on the
thematic
screen.
purpose that has. But
It doesn't
okay.
at all.
I
It's
enjoy the fact that Paul is a Trump supporter. I think that's an interesting dynamic.
See, that's it. Lots of interesting stuff. Never that I really get a good sense of. Which is why I think the movie still works, is because in kind of a reverse way, there's so much going on. There's so much I can think about, but that's more internally with me than the film is actually trying to say to me.
And once again,
Yeah.
I just want to reiterate, I really appreciate what Spike Lee's trying to do. And I appreciate the message, obviously. But I think it's coming at a detriment to the quality of his films, as well as the coherency, if that's a word. Coherence
But that's
of his films? The ability to
Yeah.
cohere his films.
But at this point, that's sort of his
That's
thing.
sort of his thing, I guess. I don't even. He may be so self-aware that he's just doing
No.
a lot of it on purpose at this point because he knows it does well. I don't know. There's some part that I'm trying to remember specifically what happened, but there's some scene. It's somewhere in the middle of the film. Someone's lecturing someone on something, and then all of a sudden it just hard cuts to like footage that's completely unrelated, that is thematic to Spike Lee, obviously, but has nothing to do with the scene or the film.
Yeah. So
And then it just cuts
I
back and
enjoy,
the scene continues, and I was like, what was that?
I enjoy that PowerPoint presentation type interruption in the beginning, but the one part where I was just like, why? Was when they're on the landmine and Jonathan Majors or Paul is telling his son, like, what college you go to? And the guy's like, and he says the college. And then his dad's like, oh, who went there? And then they do like a weird brief, like, synopsis or like history on this Olympic athlete.
Oh, and they
I
cut
was
to
like,
the footage of
why?
it? Yes. This
Yeah.
might be what I was talking about. I don't remember now. I have a vague memory of this.
And then it ends with him like, you're going to fly like him.
Exactly. And he didn't because he got pulled on a rope.
Yeah, maybe that's kind of cool. I don't know. Maybe now that I think about it, I'm like, I guess that's kind of cool, and it's just so Spike Lee.
Speaking of Spike Lee real world footage montages, this film begins with one,
it ends with one as well,
which I enjoy.
On one end, I enjoyed. I think if you're looking at it from like a position of like 50 years from now, when the Vietnam War is even more of a distant memory, it's good to have that to kind of put you into the mood of what that place and time and where these characters are coming from. At the same time, I think there is actual footage of someone getting shot and killed in the opening montage.
It's a very famous video of a man who gets
I'm like,
murdered.
I didn't need to see that.
Spike, fuck off with that.
That was horrible. That, like, I almost vomited.
It's
watching
really just that one shot. The rest of it I could deal with just fine. When it has some other really kind of hard imagery, but that was just like
that one was
I didn't
really
realize
bad. It
people were
was
so
like
upset about
geysering
that.
out of his head. I was like, fuck off, Spike.
Oh, I am a little morbid, and I've seen that video many times before. And I forget that other people don't watch people die as often as I
Shots
do.
to Zach Harris.
But yeah,
Here's the thing. It's different when you are going to watch that video for itself.
Yeah,
And then
No, I
like
agree.
watching this movie and suddenly it's in your face. Oh, someone's dying.
there's also a shot, or I don't know if it's a video or a still image of a little girl that's very badly burned.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if in the
But,
middle of
yeah.
Schindler's List, they just threw in a shot of a guy lawnmowing puppies. We're just like, why was that even necessary?
I get that,
No,
but
it's
that's
not.
kind of.
That's a horrible comparison.
Speaking of violence, there's when the Vietnamese shoot Paul and kill him,
yeah.
and like just riddle his body with the machine gun. Another instance of like tonal shifts in the film of where like you are going for like splatterhouse gore there. Why is it
He
here?
got shot like 50 times. They like literally made him look like a cheese shredder or something.
Which,
like,
if anything, that's a perfect way to.
They're not gonna do
that. That is the perfect opportunity to invoke that video you're talking about. If you just shot him in the head and it was.
Yes, I was just about to say, like, it's a serious moment. He's singing about like being peaceful to them, and just gunshot. That's it. He's dead. That feels more impactful than just
like Sierra Madre, where Dobbs gets hacked practically off screen.
Did you guys notice how that scene kind of starts with just like a hard cut from Lindo just like in the forest somewhere, and then it just like hard cuts to him in the middle of the crowd with the guns at him? They never really explained that he got captured again or anything.
See, I like that. I think that was a good...
Was that like the he's so insane he's not even realizing what's going on thing, or was that just like poor editing?
Well, I felt you didn't need to see them capture.
Yeah, you don't.
Well, I mean, I guess you don't need to see it, but it's just like a huge time jump that they don't signify with anything. They don't really show.
I felt that the movie could have used a bit more creative cutting.
Oh, I mean, I agree. I'm not saying they didn't need more of it. I was just pointing out the one I noticed.
Yeah, it does.
What did the snake
seems a little
bite
out
do?
of place, but I get its purpose.
Oh, Spike Lee, this is what you do, right? Okay, Spike, you're kind of an activist, right? You want to spread a message. I appreciate that, but you have too many. You have too many things you want to say. Get a piece of paper, write them all down. Write all your themes down. You probably had about 15 in this film. Then what I want you to do is just narrow that down. Pick ones that kind of relate to each other, kind of make sense, and then make a plot around that. And then for the other themes that you didn't use, just make another movie. Just make another one. Don't just force the other themes into the film that you're making just because they're topical to the time right now.
The thing about Spike Lee is that at this point in time, he is a prolific filmmaker with a few really great films. He has been recently Oscar nominated. His films, even when they are not great, they are important considering the political climate right now. That paired with the fact that he is also a professor at NYU who gets a second living telling other filmmakers what to do. I think at this point, there is just so much ego to Spike Lee that you will not be able to convince him to cut things down, to simple it down, to shorten it in any way. But that's okay, because that has kind of always been his thing. So, overall,
and I mean, I will watch every film he puts out.
He's interesting. Even when he's not great, he's at least interesting.
This was a good
and
watch.
I appreciate that he's trying stuff, because not enough people just try stuff anymore.
Yes, he still feels fresh and new, and only in the way that Spike Lee does it. So that's another positive.
There's passion there.
Yeah, and there's a lot of passion.
So we shit on this movie a lot, but it's just because we know what Spike Lee's capable of.
Because it has a lot of potential.
And it has so much potential.
I really enjoy this story.
I don't know if you guys knew, but the script was previously written by two dudes.
Danny Boyle, I think?
It was supposed to go to someone else. No, it wasn't written by Danny Boyle. But the script was finished by two random other people, picked up by somebody, then dropped, and then Spike Lee got it from them and rewrote it with him and another guy. So there's technically 4 screenwriting credits, but it's only 2, really.
It was one of the original writers was Danny Bilson. So I said Danny, and I just kind of.
So Danny Boyle's son.
It was Oliver Stone who was set to direct originally.
That would have been
dropped out in 2016.
Yeah, so it's been on the chopping board for a while, but Spike Lee picked it up and rewrote a lot of it. So
which partially might be some of the messiness to blame.
Yeah,
there,
I could see that.
Originally,
I could see that,
and kind of grafted it into a story about African Americans in Vietnam. Either way, it's interesting.
It's good. I still recommend it, even though it's messy.
I would say the Lindo performance alone, even if you find Spike Lee egregious, I would watch it just based on that.
I find every character to be at least somewhat interesting, but Otis and Paul and Jonathan Majors were the standouts. There's a lot of shit coming out right now. This is a step above a lot.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I recommend it.
I'm glad Netflix is just giving these auteurs money to make more
Spike
movies.
Lee-
Give David Lynch some fucking money, Netflix. How long do we have to wait for this?
I would love season 4 of Twin Peaks.
Please.
Netflix.
Just give him something. Let him make stuff.
He doesn't want to make movies anymore.
Is that true?
Yeah, it's true. He hasn't made one since
Netflix, just let
2006.
him make like a 16-hour movie. You know, deep down in his heart, he wants to make that.
That's
Just
what
give him the
Twin
money.
Or
Peaks
just fund short films from David Lynch. I'd
They are
watch
fun.
more.
Oh, I would watch
Jack
every.
do?
Oh
fun.
my god, yes. I love when more What Would Jack Do trilogy.
So yeah, hard. I'm not gonna say hard recommend, but definitely
The
recommend.
What Would Lynch Do trilogy.
Oh my god.
The What Would Lynch Do trilogy. Yes, I would say watch it. That's my recommendation.
Spike Lee, at the very least, always gives you movies to talk about. So
Yes.
2020, good movie.
yeah, it's a 2020 good movie. It's not Artemis
It
Fowl.
is a 2020 good movie.